want to just be a static in one spot and interview?
Yeah, just fine. I have you on camera.
Do you want to do the whole airplane, or do you
Sure.
want to get closer in?
Whole thing.
Okay. So like right here is good?
Yes. We're on.
Okay. Well, John, thanks for the introduction. And yes, my name is John Collver, and behind me is my office with a view. It's known as an AT6 Texan, or in the Navy Marine versions, it's an SNJ. And she was built in 1944 for the purpose of advanced training, gunnery, photography, and it was built in Dallas, Texas, 1944 to December 12th to be exact. We have the original logbook, so she's going to be 80 this year in 2024, and we fly her proudly. And in 1944, built there, it was delivered to what was now known as Miramar for the acceptance into the Marine Corps, and at that point it was called Camp Elliott, which is around the 15 freeway nowadays, and then Miramar across the way. And then it was delivered up to El Toro, which is here in Santa Ana, Tustin. And the aircraft served as an instrument trainer, advanced trainer, for many years, and then moved on all over the country to Pensacola, Coreyfield, you name it, just about been everywhere, until the late, or I should say 1950. Then it was back to Pensacola, long history. And it ended up doing aircraft carrier qualifications for the new Naval Marine pilots on the USS Cabot. It's a training aircraft. It had a tail hook on this bird, and so they did a lot of what they call traps. When you land an airplane on an aircraft carrier, it's called a trap. So it's been through all of that, and then it moved on to after the war, after the Korean War, it was put into salvage, and then ended up in Alameda and then shipped to Japan. And in Japan, it was brought back into service, repainted yellow with the markings, the Japanese logos. And what happened there is it ended up being a maritime self-defense force, and which is basically like the Japanese Coast Guard. We've got some original pictures of it sitting in one of the hangars. And in fact, the sister ship over there belongs to the Commemorative Air Force in Camarillo. It's all yellow still, but it's in the U.S. markings. Ours is 17, that one's 290. It served there for quite a while through the years of Godzilla and everything in Japan. Our plane was there, but she survived it, obviously, and moved into, again, scrap. And a friend of mine in Compton that rebuilt T6s, Warbirds West, he located what he did for a living and basically have them shipped over, rebuilt it. And so he had several of them over in Japan for $500 a piece. So they were not in the best of shape. They have seen better lives then, but they were put on a ship, interestingly enough, from Japan back to Alameda. And on that trip, the ship got caught in, I guess it was a typhoon. And the ship almost capsized. We would have lost a lot of history there. But fortunately, it didn't capsize, and they made it, and she made it back to Alameda with the rest of her sisters, and then shipped back down here to Compton Airport, where it was restored, rebuilt back in the late 1970s. I had a partner with her, and for a while, and then he sold out, and then I had another partner come aboard, and we had a partnership for several years. He was a non-pilot, but he had the interest in owning a piece of history and campaigning this aircraft with its history. And then I bought him out, and I'm just doing solo air shows now. I've been doing air shows for approximately 42 years now, as the logo says here. So we're celebrating that, and we do air shows primarily demonstrating the aircraft's capability. We're not going out doing tricks and stunts and everything else that you need to talk about. It's more of a demonstration of the aircraft is doing in combat. We choreograph it with music of the period 1940s music, so it puts it in the mood, shall we say, just like the song goes. And it's about a 10-minute performance. We have a smoke system on it, heavy smoke system, traces the airplane through the air, we do the loops, the rolls, Cuban 8s, point rolls, high-speed passes, low-speed passes with the gear down. Then I come out and get interviewed with some of the spectators there, sign some autographs as the show continues. And so it's a great asset to many of the military shows because they have all the current Blue Angels, Thunderbirds, so on and so forth. And it's nice to have an aircraft of this vintage there that really accents the history of U.S. military operations. And along with that, we do civilian air shows as well, or flyover activities that are more recently, like the 4th of July special events or memorial flyovers. So that's kind of the big push on it. And as far as myself goes, the guy behind the stick, it's a stick control aircraft. I hung around here at Torrance Airport when I was a little kid, riding my bicycle in. And with my buddies, airplane nerds, I guess you could say, back in 68, 69. And we loved airplanes. My first time off the ground, actually, we hear it now, is a helicopter, Bell 47, like the old MASH TV series. I was hooked, you know, but I kind of went the other direction, seeing what helicopters cost to fly. So I ended up flying fixed wing aircraft. So that worked out well, and cleaned out hangars and washed airplanes for flight time. I didn't want cash, I wanted flying. So I went on and flew Cessna 152, Citabris, Cherokees, and on 16 you can solo. That's your youngest you can solo. I got signed off to fly 4 different types of aircraft on that one day. Then the next day I went out to get my driver's license. It's like, okay, it's all good. And then went on to my private license, commercial, instrument, all the things you have to do. I became a flight instructor to get paid now at that point to get flight time. My ultimate goal was airlines, like most young people are. And these days it's kind of repeating itself from back then, is that pilot shortages. And so we are there with that again. But I kind of changed directions and went with corporate flying, which was Northrop Grumman Corporation, and worked my way up from quality engineering with the 747 project and the F-18 projects here at El Segundo and Hawthorne, and then keeping a close eye on the flight department. They were changing to the Super King Airs, and they were requiring, they didn't fly co-pilots, but then when they got the Super King Air, they required to have a co-pilot. So I kept knocking on their door until they got tired of looking at me, and they says, okay, we got a seat for you. And we did the interview, went to training, and it was history from that point on. Made captain. I was one of their youngest captains at age 31, and I got to fly back and forth to Edwards, Palmdale mostly for the B-2 program, the F-20 in those days. Several programs, and then most recently when the B-2 came out, we were there and flew some notables such as Barbara Boxer, Feinstein, Dick Cheney, back in the Bush eras. And so it worked out well, and plus all the worker bees that go back and forth every day. And then there's some other places we went that I can't mention on here, although probably say no. Top secret place. It's just to say it's sort of north of Las Vegas. But anyway, we worked with that and enjoyed it. But then I had a little Piper Cherokee during that time because I could afford it, 4-seater. It was a fun little airplane, but my eyes were always on warbirds. My dad was a World War II vet, and he always wanted to fly, but the war broke out. The war was over. Started a family, and all that got in the way. So. But he's always telling me about the war. And we went to air shows as a family. And then I kept seeing the big radial engine airplanes and the World War II planes that my dad was naming. Like, oh, this is neat. So we built models of these aircraft. And then he passed on a while back. And but in his name and his legacy, I thought I'd salute the Armed Force veterans. So I ended up with a T6, because it was at the time an affordable big iron warbird, and meaning it's a larger type of warbird, not like a T-34 or a WARDOG. They're beautiful aircraft, but this is the big one. This is the one that was in World War II, and so it most represents the veterans of World War II. Everybody that took training to fly in the war had to go through a T6. It was the it's a tailwheel airplane, so all the steering, and most planes were. I call it conventional landing gear. Nowadays they have the nose wheel and the tricycle airline, everything's pretty much. But with a tailwheel, it's very difficult to fly, especially in crosswinds. So when you get a T6, it's one of the harder ones to fly. So we kind of affectionately say it's the tail dragger with an attitude. So you gotta be careful with the airplane. And believe me, it's every time out, it's, I don't want to say full of learning experience, but you respect the aircraft and the weather conditions and your conditions before you go out. So that's what I've been working with that for this many years. And every time I go out, it's just like the first time. I really enjoy it. It's expensive. The airplane, well, it cost us $29,000 to buy back then. Now they're going in upwards of about $200,000. So it's a good investment. We made a lot of money, but put food on the table, shall we say. And we researched this one and painted it up to almost original World War II colors of El Toro Marine Corps Air Station. VMT2 on the tail, which we'll show you in a little bit. On the fuselage, I should say, is for the Marine trainer. V stands for heavier than air, not limp or dirigible. And 2 is the squadron number 2. And then you see the WD on the tail. That's the actual squadron and El Toro itself. And WD, you never believe it, but it stands for WARDOG on our plane. But originally in the war, it was Walt Disney's initials. Why is it Walt Disney's initials? Well, a guy in that area is a cartoonist, and there's a squadron. Every base has sort of a logo, and the base was called El Toro. So if you look back through the Disney cartoons, you have Ferdinand the Bull, and Ferdinand the Bull, all you gotta do is put wings on it, and it's a flying bull. So there you are. And so in reciprocation, the Marine Corps and the Department of Defense government said that let's, in respect to Walt Disney, let's put WD on it. And it held WD for most of the squadrons, for most of the years, until the air base closed back in 96 or 97, and all moved down to Miramar. But there's pictures of F-18s. You probably look in the books, and you see WD on F-18s. So it stayed with it for a long time. And you notice it's all gray, but the nose is painted yellow. Yellow on a cowling means it's a trainer. So you see a yellow nose come, you know there's a student there behind the controls. And the stripes on the wings, the green stripes, meant it was an instrument trainer. So it did a lot of instrument training, although it did some gunnery. This aircraft had 30 caliber machine gun mounted in the nose, and the blister you'll see in a little bit. And then it had originally bomb racks on it, or missiles, I should say, rockets. And in the Korean War, they used these, they resurrected them. This didn't go to Korea, but it was set up for North American on a rebuild after the war. It could go, but it did not go. And they used those for close air support, meaning they'd fly those in first, shoot rockets off where the enemy is and locate them. And then the jets, the Sabre jets, F-86, Panthers, F-9Fs, would come in and take out the enemy, the bad guys. But these airplanes were first in. I did fly years ago, a guy who was in the war and flew these from the back seat, a spotter they called him.
Oh, wow.
It was a real honor to fly with him, and he signed an old picture of him flying in a T6 over Korea, and showed me all the missiles and rockets and gave me this history. And interestingly enough, they were always afraid of being shot at, and the ground-to-air bullets, whatever, can go right through this aluminum. And so what they did is they took off the top of the stove, that's steel, where they were cooking stuff. It was cool. And then they took out the part of the seat and they put that down in the seat bucket where you would sit. And then they felt more protected. So it's got that steel. So it would have the belly of the plane, the seat bucket itself, and then the steel stove piece of it to protect them from getting shot in the behind. And then they'd buckle up and go fly. And I thought that was pretty ingenious. And so anyway, that's what that's about.
That's good. What is the max flying altitude?
Oh yeah, and again, the performance of the airplane, it cruises about 175, And altitude, max altitude is about 22,000. It's got a supercharger on it. So you start drinking oxygen at about 12,000 feet. I never go up there.
Oh, that's good.
It would be very expensive. And there's no reason to. Most of my flying's done around 3,000 to 7,000 feet, depending from over a mountain or just practicing over here off of Palos Verdes coast. And top speed is 250 in a dive. And the airplane weighs almost 6,000 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy. That's why I said big iron warbird. And it's like the only trainer that had retractable gear, single engine. And we had the Twin Beaches, Kansan they called them, and the Cessna Bobcats. They were all multi-engine trainers. After you got out of this, if you go in bombers, you sign bombers, you go to the twin engine, which are of course retractable gear. So this is like the only one that was built like that. So a cadet, called cadets in the war, would start out with a Stearman PT-17 or 22. There was a laundry list of different types of basic trainers, biplanes or single wing. And then they'd move into the BT, which is a BT-13s, which is a medium trainer, which has a bigger engine. It looks a lot like a T6, but it's fixed gear. Then when they graduated that, that's called basic trainer. They go to the AT or advanced trainer.
Okay.
And then, you know, either you're going bombers or fighters. Everybody put fighters, they ended up in bombers. People who put bombers ended up in fighters.
Yes.
Welcome to the U.S. Military. But anyway, it all worked out, and obviously, here we are.
Oh, that's good. The engine you have on it, is it the original?
It's not. Oh no, it's not an original. This is my 11th engine on it.
Oh wow.
Oh, it's 11th engine. It's about my third engine. They last about 1,500 hours flight time. About 1,300 hours. I look at them very closely, oil analysis, and we generally just pull them off just because, and they're not burning much oil. I just don't want to have a problem down the road, so I think ahead of it. So that's 650 horsepower, supercharger on it, and
let's see the engine a bit here.
Sure. That propeller, it's a two-blade. With that big engine behind it, it doesn't look like the propeller's all that big compared to some of the fighter planes.
Yeah.
But it is. It's 109 inches from tip to tip. And these are one of the noisiest airplanes around, so it makes it really hard to fly at Torrance. We have to take off with reduced power, as you probably know, compared to what the most of the noise is not so much the engine, but it's the propeller. The tip's about 2,000 RPM. The red line of it's 2250. About 2,000, the tips start going transonic.
Oh wow!
And so it sounds like it's growling like a big bear or a baritone mosquito. Some friends would call it. And that's the tips going supersonic. And actually, if you slowed it down, the sound really slow, it's actually little sonic booms.
Oh wow!
And our ears pick it up as one noise. And so that's the biggest, noisiest thing. So if you can reduce, why don't you have to reduce noise? You bring the power back. At air shows or aerobatic maneuvers, I just bring it right up because it's designed to do that.
Oh yeah.
You know, they run better when you run them harder. It's 9 cylinders, single row, 2 spark plugs per cylinder, which is a dual magneto system. So in case you lose a magneto, you still got another one. It'll run a little weak and a little rough, but you'll know you can take it on home. But yeah, every aircraft has that. And it's not new magic even in the 40s. Back in World War I, it was all new. But and it's amazing, from World War I to the designs and stuff of World War II, especially the late 30s into the 40s, especially when we went into war, how aerospace or aircraft changed. I mean, from like Fokkers and triplanes and Jennies, and then single engine stuff. Howard Hughes and Jack Northrop and all those guys were pioneers in design. This basic wing construction design is a Jack Northrop design, the way it's put together with the center section 2As. And like 133 bolts hold each wing on, plus with a big joist inside the. And it just. You'd have to hit a wall at full speed to break the wing.
Oh wow!
Or if you don't take care of your plane, make sure the corrosion is taken care of.
Oh yeah.
But and so we're really happy with the way it's been performing. There's our modern day trainer, sturdy old Cessna 172. They are kind of like the T6 was in the 40s. Sort of the backbone of training.
Oh yeah.
But But we've flown since air shows, since the Edwards Airshow, Air Force Base show, Miramar, which is the home of Top Gun, San Francisco Fleet Week,
And what about
Reno,
Point Magoo?
Point Magoo for many years. One of my first shows,
Oh,
big
wow.
shows were Point Magoo.
Okay.
And that's a good show. That's an excellent show. It's close to LA. It's enjoyable. Just kind of watch the issue of the fog. I think that's where they make fog there. So you kind of have to schedule it later in the day. But it all works. So in fact, we did it last year. And Edwards and and El Centro, the home of the Blue Angels. So we do West Coast air shows, military and civilian. So and that's what we do.
Can we have a look at the side here?
Outside? Inside?
Yeah, I just want to have a look at.
Sure. And as you see on this page, there are my two names here, my sons basically.
Oh yes.
My chief pilot. And then, of course, sponsorships. These things don't fly without some. Concord Batteries is our sponsorship for this year. We've had a bunch of other sponsors as well. And Pratt Whitney sticker on everything. And Pratt Whitney's some of the best engines built. Some will disagree, some will agree. Okay. It's again a two-seater. Instructor in the back. We used to have a 30 caliber out the back also. And the seat would turn around. So foot's dry. You can step up on the wing. You see the little teddy bear that sits behind my head on the back of the seat. He's flown with me for many years. He's my good luck charm.
Oh, that's good.
His name is Radar. Appropriately.
And WD.
Yeah, Walt Disney. Now the aircraft is all metal, except for the flight controls are fabric. Yeah, here. For quick replacement or whatever, fabric was always the way to go. There were some that in the Korean War later were all metallized.
What year is this plane from again?
1944.
Oh wow.
December 44. Yeah.
And how long did it take you to fix it up?
We got it.
When you got it?
It almost didn't make it as one complete airplane. We're almost going to salvage it for other airplanes.
Oh my.
Yeah, but we had enough of everything together and know-how and love and care, giving it some love. And so she ended up back where it was. It was a while back, probably about 6 or 7 months minimum. And that was rebuilt over at Compton.
Oh wow.
So it had a major face makeover.
Ah.
And it's an ongoing thing. You're never done.
So
Everything's original.
it's just the kind of the love of your life.
Yeah. Office with a view.
Office with a view.
And believe me, it's been a lot of joyful work and sometimes a little heartache here and there.
Oh yeah. And there's the exhaust.
There's the big exhaust pipe. Puts out a lot of noise. It's like a big tuba. But it's not as loud as the propeller tip, as I mentioned earlier. And on the side, most airplanes had logos and those are ours.
Okay.
The Bulldog. And the Bulldog is because it's a Marine aircraft, and that's the emblem the Marines use is the Bulldog, and they put the little tin hat normally on it. So can you explain a little bit about the smoke? The smoke?
And what you use for the smoke?
Yeah, we use 1010 weight smoke, which is basically like a turbine fuel for turbojet. It's really thin viscosity. It's biodegradable. We have a 15-gallon tank in the back. We have hoses that come up to the front, and it's injected into the exhaust. That makes the smoke out the exhaust pipe. Looks like it's coming out the tail, but actually, look closely, it comes out the side.
Oh, that's good.
And so you kind of smell it when it's on. But we have an on-off switch, solenoid, and a pump.
Uh-huh.
And we pump out about a gallon a minute of smoke oil, which is quite a bit, 60 gallons an hour. And
Oh, wow.
the smoke oil today, as we talk, the smoke oil is about $30 a gallon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so when I go to an air show, they pay for all that. Part of the payment. When I go out and practice, it's on my own dime. So,
Uh-huh.
the smoke is good. It's a good training aid. Flying maneuvers and warrior situator sequences, but also for air shows that people can trace your flights, your flight, and everything. And it makes the airplane stand.
And what's the farthest you've flown WARDOG?
I've gone up to Portland.
Portland.
For sure.
Okay.
Show up there.
Uh-huh.
And typically for quite a while we were doing the Reno air races up there.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't doing it for air show demonstration. We were actually, believe it or not, they had a program in there. It was called raffle rides.
Mm-hmm.
So people would go up to the booth by the pit area and buy a ticket for $20 for a chance to go fly with me during the races. Now I was not racing. The racers are the racers, the pace plane. But we would go up with them, and boy, could you get some good video.
Oh, wow.
We're all in line and joining up, and then we come down. They call the chute. And the pace plane always fall in the pace plane, and he releases them, and I go, but you get some good video of all these guys.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
It was good stuff. And so we did that for several years until 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't put a push on a lot of this stuff. Things changed up there.
And can you mention your website?
Again, for further information, you can go to WARDOG17.com, and that gives a little more, well, a little less spew than I just gave out. But there's some good video in there from the cockpit, from different air show sites, very easy to navigate, and several pictures of my performances, and even when I flew with a team with the B-51, Chuck Hall, he's down in San Diego, he's got a B-51, very famous air race guy, and so he did a two-ship for a while. He was practically at idle, and I'm like full power. The B-51 is fast. That's the big sister to this one. And so we enjoy it. It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's good. And I was wondering, can you explain, if anyone is interested, how they can go for a ride?
They can contact me. References on WARDOG17.com. One of the pages will have address, phone number. Just give me a call, and it could be arranged. Generally a couple weeks in advance. And the show season is generally in the summer. I'm a little busier in the summer than the winter, for obvious reasons.
Oh, yes.
So if you wanted to do something like that, give me a call.
Okay, thank you so much, John.
You bet.
And it's a beautiful plane.
Thank you.